Hello and thank you for joining me today. I'm Jan Clothier from Thinking Stamping and I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator from New Zealand. Today's card is one that I made for the inspiration Instagram hop at Stamping Fancy Friday, which is a group of past and present Stampin' Up artisan design team members. And the the challenge for this hop was to use a sketch. And so this is my interpretation of it, and it uses the Flowing Flowers set from the January to June 2022 mini catalogue. It's one of my favourite sets, but of course I am a sucker for these vintage looking floral sets. The other reason I like this set, of course, is that it's got excellent sentiments. A happy birthday, love that script. Just a note, I like you. The thank you's lovely. Time for a happy dance, I wasn't sure about to begin with, but I've come to really like it. And I think for these times, sending a card instead of a text is just a nice sentiment to have in your store. Okay, so we will get started and we'll start with what do you need to make it. Well, I've used Fresh Freesia card base. It's 14.8. It's the width of a piece of A4 paper, so it's scored at 10.5 to make the card base. I have got a piece of basic white, 10 centimetres by 14.3. and an identical piece for the inside. Now, the one that's for the front, I've already embossed using the Painted Texture 3D embossing folder, which we're going to colour in a moment. I've got a piece of paper that is 8 centimetres by 13, from which we're going to construct both the banner, the front banner, and the decorative strip for the inside of the card. And I have already cut and stamped the sentiment. I've used the Happy Birthday from the set. I've used Gorgeous Grape because it's the darkest colour in that set of colours for the Happy Birthday. And by either, well, good luck or good design, or perhaps both, the Happy Birthday fits perfectly inside this stitched rectangle die from the Stitched Rectangle set. Stitch rectangle framelits. Now I've also cut an identical piece out of soft succulent, because I'm going to layer them up before I attach them, just so that there's a little bit of underscoring of the sentiment to help it stand out. And the other thing that we need is just a piece of scrap basic white, because you'll see here on the original card that I've got some fussy cutting going on to add some depth to the design. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to colour that using a blending brush. And where is the fuchsia? I'm just going to colour from the bottom up because I want it to fade out. Okay, now when you're adding colour, it's always better to go slow and steady than to rush in with a heavily inked brush, because you can always build up the layers of colour, but once it's there forever and you can't get rid of it. So we'll just pop that aside until we need it. Of course, if you were doing this and you'd like a darker look, then you would just keep on building up the colour for a little bit longer, but we'll just pop that aside for now. Okay, so we're going to start now doing the stamping. And we're going to use this image from the set, which is a flower with some leaves and some stippling, which you could, depending on how you colour it, is more flowers in the background or more leaves, whatever you want to do. Now, you can just stamp it in one colour, and there's nothing wrong with that at all, but we are going to do something a little bit different to that and multicolour it. So I'm going to start with the Fresh Freesia, because that's the colour I'm going to do I want the rose to be, so I'm just inking up that, and then I'm going to take some Highland Heather and a sponge dauber, and I'm just going to daub the speckly bit. And it doesn't matter if the colours overlap, because, you know, this is not a realistic flower interpretation. This is a kind of dreamy, romantic thing. So if the colours bleed into each other a little bit, you know, it's actually adds to the design rather than takes away from it. So I'm going to start with that. Now, it's quite hot here because it's the middle of summer. So I'm going to just huff on it a little bit. And I'm going to start in the middle and just stamp. There, lovely. Now, before I do anything more, I'm going to come in with the fresh freesia, and I'm going to add in a couple of flowers using just this large bloom here, which I'm just going to single colour in the fresh freesia, and perhaps we'll have some 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 up there, and perhaps down the bottom 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then I'm going to add in some more of that original stamp, but I'm really interested, you'll see here in the original, I'm actually interested in just adding in some more of the green. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just colour up the back end of that stamp. So we will have the soft succulent and ink up the leaves, and we'll have a little bit of Highland Heather for those bits. And I'm just going to stamp them there. And I think that's quite a big space, so I'm going to add in another one of those flowers just to fill up some of that space. And then I'm going to add in just a little bit more of the back end of the stamp. And we better pop in a little bit of Highland Heather. Whoops, almost used the wrong dauber, even though I carefully labelled it so that I didn't do that. Okay, and now we will just pop that in there. Okay, now I cut this banner to be 8 centimetres wide because although I want the finished banner to be 7 centimetres, I did want a decorative strip that I could add to the inside. So I'm just going to cut off 1 centimetre and save that for the inside. And now I've got my banner, which I'm ready to flag at the end. So what I'm going to do, now if you were very mathematical and very worried about such things, you would measure where 3.5 centimetres was. However, I'm going to trust myself to work out where 3.5 centimetres is, and I'm just going to cut, and then I'm going to cut from the corner to the top of that, and I'm going to do the same from the other direction and tidy that up. Okay, and there is my banner ready to attach. Okay, so the other thing that I need to do is I need to do what I'm going to fussy cut with. So I need to fussy cut one more of these fancy flowers, so we'll do the same deal. Stamp where the flower's going to be and dauber in some Highland Heather on the speckly bits, and then I'm going to dauber in soft succulent the leaves. Okay, I'm just going to stamp that. Now I also want some extra leaves to fussy cut, so I'm just going to dauber the green just so that I can fussy cut out them as well. Now, to save you watching me do that, I have in fact already fussy cut myself that flower and the extra leaves, and we'll use that for a different project. Okay, so we're getting pretty close to the part where we start to assemble. So here's our card base. Here is our softly sponged and textured card front. So attach it using whatever your favourite kind of adhesive is. Those of you who watch me regularly will know that I am a glue girl. But if you like to use tape, well, you just use tape, that's fine. There are situations where I use tape as well. But what I like about glue is it just gives me an opportunity to do any last minute wiggle adjustments to make sure everything's straight. Okay, so that is going to go there. And in fact, I don't know, it looks a little bit, does it look a little bit long? Perhaps I'd like that to come up. I know, I'll do what I always tell my people in class to do, which is just lay everything out before you attach anything so that you can see whether you need to change anything. So we'll just attach that. And it's going to go, this is going to go directly over the one that's stamped. That is going to go over, and then these leaves are just going to tuck in somewhere. Okay, so I think actually we won't, yeah, I think we'll just leave that. I'm not going to trim it shorter, but of course, if you got to this stage and you thought, oh, actually that banner's a bit long, then all you really need to do is just trim. Actually, and showing just how totally decisive I am about card making, I am in fact going to trim 0.5 centimetre off the top of that. And in fact, you might go, well, why didn't I just cut it 12.5 at the beginning? Well, I actually quite like to have a bit of extra to play with, because sometimes, you know, when you've stamped it, particularly when you've stamped it rather than using DSP, you might decide that you like the look of where the stamp is in a different place, and then you've got some room to to adjust at the last minute. So okay, so I'm going to just glue on my banner. Now I'm going to use dimensionals to pop up my fussy cut flower. I like to use plenty of dimensionals because I don't like it when I come back to a card after I've made it, you know, say a couple of weeks or a couple of months ago, and I want to send it to somebody, and I find that the lifted up parts have sagged in the middle. So, you know, I'd rather put more than I need rather than fewer. I guess that's a matter of choice. Okay. So I'm now going to pop that over like that. Now, before I attach my happy birthday, you'll see that I've added in a bow. Now that bow comes from the Simply Elegant Trim Pack. Comes in a pack of 2, a gold cord and a silver cord. And I've already tied myself a generous bow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a glue dot to just hold that in place. Glue dot. Here we go. So I'm just going to pop the glue dot there. I'm just going to hold that in place like that. And okay. Yep, that's going to work. Now, I can see that that end of my happy birthday is over that row, over that flower, whatever it is, which is already on dimensionals. So I'm only going to put dimensionals at this end of, so I'm only going to put dimensionals at that end, and the end that's going over the already raised piece, I will just add a smidge of glue to. Oops. Don't lose the whole thing. Okay. So I think I want that to come out. Now it's just a matter of just sort of faffing around with that ribbon, that bow rather. Okay. I'm just going to hold that because, you know, as I said, I've glued it and I want the glue to take. So I'm just going to hold that for a minute. Now, when I tie a bow, oh, geez, is that straight? Nope. Another reason that I like glue, because it gives you the wiggle room. Okay, so just holding that. Now, I have cut this very generously because that's me. I'd rather cut it generously and cut it short later than have already cut it too short and then it looks silly and I have to start again. So there is that. And the finishing touch is going to be some of these in colour 20, 21 to 23 jewels, because they are, after plain white basic rhinestones, my favourite embellishment. And so we will add in perhaps one there, and using the rule of 3, I suppose we'll pop one there, and one more. Where will we put it? I think over there. Okay, so that is our, oh, no it's not. I have not used my extra little flowers. So I'm going to cut that one off. And I think that they would look nice just tucked in there. Now I've got a choice. I could dimensional them up so that they're the same height as the rest of the flower, but I actually think it adds to the sense of depth if I have them on a different plane. So I am in fact just going to glue them and tuck them in there. And I'm going to use my trusty little bone folder to just hold it down. I'm going to now attach the little offcut of the stamping, front stamping, to the inside, and a bit of glue. And attach that to the middle. Finally, a nice little crease just to make sure it's going to sit nicely. And there you have it, a happy birthday card using the Flowing Flowers stamp set. If you want to know more or would like to contact me, then you can contact me through my Facebook page or through my blog. The details of those are going to pop up on the end card and are in the video description below this video. If you live in New Zealand and you'd like to shop with me, then there are links to my online store in those places. And if you've enjoyed what you've seen, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss anything new.